Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for watching. Happy to have you here today. And I want to give a special thank you to everyone who was so helpful with helping me wrangle in these microphone settings and get this back into peak audio condition. I'm really happy to finally have this setup prepared after injecting a whole new boom arm into this equation and giving myself a whole lot more comfort. So I'm really thrilled about it. Also excited to have you here today because we've got an absolutely beautiful lineup here as we go into this match. Spawning on the eastern side, representing our blue team, it's the Lost Dead Man himself. Another fellow content creator going to be taking charge of the blue team and leading them, hopefully, to victory. Spawning here with a bot lab, planning out a vehicle lab, I should say. Neither spawned with or starting with a bot lab. Going for a vehicle lab here right off the gate. After we get 3 metal extractors and 2 solar panels up and running. Watch it with those solar panels, Lost Dead Man. I am keeping an eye on you. Representing your team, you better not let me down. Spawning on the western side, representing our red team, we have this beautiful Armada Commander in shiny Cortex Red. Going for a bot lab, it's Mom's Boy Toy. Mom's Boy Toy, MBT, well known within the community, very high skill player. And definitely sure to bring out some really wonderful stuff for us to take a look at today. Speaking of which, today we are taking a look at 8 horses. 8 horses 1.2 to be specific. And you can see that this is definitely a very interesting match. Interesting map, rather, pardon me. You can see that this map is broken up into lanes. So it's an all lanes map, means there's no backline, quote unquote. There's no tech position, more or less. There is only war in the grimdark future of Beyond All Reason. The lanes on this map result in combinations of 2 versus 2s and 1 versus 1s, except for the northern half, which gets a little bit complicated. You can see that there's this C lane here that goes up and over and all around, and these 2 players force Spectate as well as Yoit Sage. Is that? Yeah, it's a J. Yoit Sage are going to be going neck and neck in the naval theater as they attack each other here. Meanwhile, these 2 players up north are going to try and butt heads, but they are also going to have to traverse the naval field if they want to do that as well. So usually what we see on this map is if the navy falls on one side or the other, it essentially means that the northern team whose side won the navy will get to sweep through the northern half of the entire map. It's just usually how that goes. I'd love to see if that didn't go that way, though, because that would sure be interesting. But for at least right now, that is not the common meta that we see here. Anyways, it looks like MBT does have a couple units out here on the front line. There were some units sent out by the orange player here, FNS. Honestly, all of these are really skillful players. I've played with almost... Well, I won't say almost all of these. There's still a lot of names here I don't quite recognize, at least personally. But certainly I recognize FNS, I Am Megatron, Hebe, Lost Dead Man, Force Spectate, MBT, of course. I think I played with Nyx Rosa at least a couple times as well. So yeah, the point of that is you can tell by the chevrons next to everyone's names that these are a lot of players who know what they're doing, and they're going to be giving us some very powerful stuff. Interestingly, Nyx Rosa is... Oh, I see what happened here. This is a bit of a miscue there. It will get corrected, so that's quite nice. Nyx Rosa was trying to build a radar tower up here on the hill, and the commander was accidentally moving in the wrong direction. Some ticks were trying to get through, but they ended up getting shut down by these pawns. I think if those ticks had sniped this Resbot, that would have been a way better pick here, a way better kill. Because this Resbot is eating up all this juicy metal. Oh, Resbots have a little bit of a self-regeneration there too. Didn't even know about that. I think any unit that has a energy income regenerates health a little bit over time. Not sure exactly why. I'm not sure if that's a bug or a feature or whatever it is, but it's good to know. And then there's the Gunslinger, of course, which is just the Gunslinger. We have the pawns moving forward here, trying to see if they can do a little bit of economic damage. They cannot. They don't find anything of super significant importance, short of a couple of aggravators right next to a commander. Now, these pawns are probably also going to find another commander here of Rumpasilta. Rumpasilta, there we are. Rumpus reminds me of the Rump Shaker by Tyler, the Creator. A rap artist. A United States rap artist. U.S. rap artist. Kind of random, but, you know, with an album title like The Rump Shaker, you gotta expect that it's gonna be a good one. I haven't listened to it, so, I can't remember why I know about that album, but haven't listened to it. I'm falling short on my justification for that here. But regardless, I'm liking the position here for the blue team a whole lot better. Nyx Rosa doing a phenomenal job of pushing forward and making sure that the player they're up against here, Nisais? Could be Nisais. That sounds kind of cool, right? Either way, making sure that this dark red player is going to have the maroon player. How about that? The maroon 5 player is going to have a hard time claiming their metal spot up here, which is, of course, going to give sort of a benefit to Nyx, as they don't have to fight that many units. Well, it was a nice little D-gun there. Don't have to fight as much metal worth of units on the field. But, of course, it also means that they're not... the Nisais is not going to be getting the same income here. Kind of two ways of looking at it. One is that your enemy's army is smaller. The other is that your army is bigger. Both roughly equivalent, but the reasoning can be a little different here and there. Of course, there can be multiple reasons, and often and beyond all reason. That is the case. There are many facets to this game and the way in which it is played. These rocket bots, which were the key investment here by Nisais, getting these rocket bots out and storing them up, as well as a couple of these maces, have actually been completely justified. The damage that has been done has pushed back Nyx Rosa, as well as killed most of the pawns that were up in front here. Now it's going to be an aggravator versus thug battle. Bot Lab was moved forward, and that's quite nice for Nyx, as the reinforcements are now going to come up a whole lot sooner. We do have a constructor setting up the rear metal extractors, which is quite nice. I'd love to see Nyx's commander also stepping out into the water and setting up the metal extractors out there as well. They're just as valuable as the ones on land, so there's no reason not to go claim those if we can. Meanwhile, Lost Deadman has secured this choke point right here, and this is going to be difficult to break. We're going to need quite a lot of pressure applied here. If Rumpisilta can push up and make sure to apply pressure to I Am Megatron, it's going to ease the pressure off of Lost Deadman a little bit here. So I think these artillery guns firing away up into the air and down onto the enemy formations are going to be just that relief that we need here. The maces are rolling forward. We could definitely take a beautiful engagement here if we just move these around and kind of sweep through in this direction, though, and we are going to get it. This is actually a wonderful engagement. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Super beautiful. Man, convincing argument that the Blitz is just so strong here. You can see that when they group up like this, ooh, they get D-gunned to pieces. Oh, that was absolutely beautiful. I Am Megatron completely shutting down that aggression that could have been way worse. If those units had swept down in this direction and had swept through the base to Ruffy 10, that could have been way worse. But luckily, I Am Megatron with some decent commander positioning was able to shut down all those blitzes, with only the caveat that that metal is now lost to the void. We have the forward vehicle lab producing vehicles. Do we have a rear bot lab? No, we got rid of our rear bot lab. We do have the geothermal power plant, so we're a little bit ahead of our teammates here in terms of energy production. So hopefully we start up the economy. We are starting up energy converters, which is definitely the right move here. Missile trucks. Missile truck. Sorry, singular missile truck. Trying to whittle down this turret, but Rumpustaila's commander is in the proximity, and so it'll be doing a good job of making sure that that stays nice and repaired to the brim. Up north, again, is marching forward with the thugs. This is a difficult army to beat, especially at T1. You essentially just need that much more metal, that much or more metal, in order to keep this army up and running here. We can see that Mom's Boy Toy is going for a very greedy build. We've actually gone into the water. Okay, so we went for a naval lab to build the naval constructor, just to build some naval energy converters. And then we are going to disassemble the lab, I guess. Interesting. Very interesting. Meanwhile, Ayin is doing the role of holding the front line while MBT is teching up in the back line, or at least I'm assuming they're going to tech up in the back line here. Oh, this is what we're going for. Okay, so we've got seaplane gunships on the mind. With this much energy production, 1.1k-ish, more or less, when the energy is high, and over 1,000 metal in the bank. We definitely have the resources to go for at least 12 of these sabers, 10 or 12 of those sabers. Yeah, that could hit really hard. Oftentimes people are not expecting that many gunships all at once. Medium tanks are rolling through here. I think this commander could definitely be the thing to stop them, but at least for the time being, those medium tanks are going to cause a lot of problems. It does, of course, mean that Rumpistaila's front line is going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Forces are pulled away, pulled and tugged all across the map, so if I Am Megatron has the map awareness here, he might understand that the front line here is actually incredibly exposed and we could push forward a little bit. The timing window is closing though, and we are going to settle for those mexes that went down right here. It looks like some commanders traded out. That must have been earlier in the game. I do apologize that I missed that, but I'm going to guess based on their position and as well the position of the red player in general and the amount of res bots they had on the field that metal all went back to MBT and their team. Looks like Yoitsaj has built a really impressive naval force here. We have a bunch of dolphins accompanied by a destroyer for that sort of long-range support, as well as that depth charge launcher in case there should be any submarines. We do have a couple of these coastal torpedo launchers to rain down some fire on these dolphins that are getting a little frisky here. And I love to see it. I think those can do a really huge amount of damage. Actually, they're often underutilized, but I think they're definitely going to be used to devastating effect here, to massive effect. Apparently there was another commander trade up here. Looks like that was between Petru or maybe Piotr or Peter, if you're an American like me, and FNS's commander. But there's tons and tons of metal still left on the field over here. 5.1 thousand metal. Meanwhile, huge fight continuing to push through over here. Lost Deadman is moving the tanks forward. We are going to snipe the rocket truck, or at least one of the rocket trucks here. And we're going to commit with the tanks to try and break this line. Tanks are not looking very healthy though, although there's not really very much front line here anymore. There are blitzes and those can be dangerous. They do move through and they're going to find some economy in this back line here, as well as a tick that was sent to guard it all. But it will not guard it all. It will fall. There they are. The gunships are moving around down south here. They are desperately needed because this front line is caving with the lack of support from MBT. Rumpistila, rather, as well as Nyx Rosa, are pushing in to the forward production facilities of both I Am Megatron and Niesiek. Somebody let me know how you're supposed to pronounce that, or if I even can pronounce it with my American accent. Did we see the sabers? We did see the sabers. We have a radar here. We can see them. These are accompanied by fighters, though. We have fighters. We also have a scout craft out. So we are going to be well aware of these moving into the backline. But we don't have an air player at the moment, so we are not going to have what we need in order to shuttle this down. Looks like this geothermal's in a little bit of trouble, too, as these aggravators start moving forward. Construction turret has no choice but to try and fend for itself. As the seaplane gunships make it all the way into the backline, and they do find Lost Deadman's main facility here. Lost Deadman is going for that that chainsaw here, the bomb-resistant turret. It is bomb-resistant, it is not laser-resistant. And so the gunships will do decent work against it. Not very quick work, though, and I think we could definitely be doing a little bit better here. Yeah, this is going to stay alive long enough to do some really dangerous damage, really good damage to these gunships. Gunships do finally switch targets to the constructors, which is the right idea. If we had done that a little bit sooner, I think this push probably would have been better, but this was an excellent hold by Lost Deadman, who allocated just the right amount of resources to make sure that that would stay alive. And so indeed, those gunships will go down. Unfortunate. That was a, yep, Ripsy said it best. That single chainsaw just shut down MBT's gunship play entirely. It sure did. And that's really unfortunate to see, because it is it's a really expensive army to lose, a really expensive air force to lose. A couple of bombers would have been nice here. We are going for more and more gunships, so at the very least we aren't stopping the aggression, we aren't halting the aggression, we're just going to continue to scale right here. We do have a lot of metal though, so I'd love to see this maybe expanded on a little bit, this little facility. Maybe go for a little bit more power, maybe step up to T2, maybe do something in order to help save your team whose front line is collapsing rapidly. Nix Rosa is pushing in very aggressively. I would love to see some res bots on the back of this. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, so that is wonderful. Beating me to the punch there. And making all the right moves. Feeding that metal back to your team is going to be really valuable. There's almost no way that you're going to be able to spend all this metal. You can always make make one of those metal storages, of course. Oh, interesting. This is a bit greedy because this not eating up this metal can come back to bite you. But if you can pull it off, you can resurrect the frontline vehicle lab, and you're actually going to be able to start producing vehicles. Interesting. Gunships have now pushed forward into the northern side of the map and have decided to try their luck over here instead. Jaguars are out with a little bit of an anti-air missile on them. We are going to focus down this advanced geothermal plant. However, well, if this plant is eventually taken care of, it will be a huge explosion. But it looks like that will not be the case, as a couple of these constructors will repair this, while the Ferret, the pop-up anti-air turret, will shoot down all of the anti-air. Really unfortunate. MBT is just not getting the value out of these units that he was really hoping for. I think he pulled the units away over here just to make sure that this wouldn't take out all the gunships, but unfortunately, what that meant is that it wasn't going to go down. Yep, it's a little bit of greed, and that gets you a whole face full of medium tanks in your back line here, as now MBT's main energy center is crippled, and he's going to be forced to rebuild from essentially the ground up. Greg, very aggressive, but the right idea. I mean, that gunship play, both of those gunships plays should have been way, way more dangerous than they actually were, but they were held really nicely by, well, the one down south by Lost Deadman was held phenomenally, but the one up north was just dumb luck that MBT just happened to split the units and not dedicate enough forces. And that meant that MBT is almost entirely wiped out of this match at this point. The medium tanks have rolled into the base. There's not really a way to deal with this at the moment. We don't have a good way. We don't have nearly enough forces. We took down the seaplane lab in order to go for that T2 lab, which will now go up in smoke to a bunch of these T1 medium tanks. This is going from bad to worse, as MBT is wiped off the face of this map. Nix Rosa is starting to push forward here, but the Hounds are pushing back. Those are going to be difficult to deal with. Sounds are very powerful, and we can see exactly why Nisis was halted there. Whoa, looks like meanwhile a couple of medium tanks have snuck through to trade out MBT by killing the base of Lost Deadman. You take out our top player, we'll take out yours. That's what's on the mind here, at least for Ayin, who has gotten the medium tanks into the back line in the first place. Heavy laser turret is coming up and on the way, but it's not done yet. It's got a ways to go before it's going to be effective. But this is a huge amount of damage. We've essentially traded even at this point, where we've taken out 2 players in the back line here. Still tons of medium tanks, by the way, so we are going to have to deal with that at some point. But we traded evenly with 2 players being knocked out here and 2 players being knocked out here as well. I'd love to see them kill this T2 lab, though. That would really seal the deal here. That would be the nail in the coffin. If we could get that lab, that would make this a whole lot nicer down here. You'd have absolutely no retribution other than the T1 coming out near the front line. T1, by the way, that would be easily cleaned up by all of these T2 units. I'd love to see some gunslingers out. Very, very good against these medium tanks here. There's just so much health tied up in these medium tanks, and you really don't have a great way of dealing with it, at least not in big clumps like this, unless you go for some sort of AoE T2 unit. So we're talking about a Fat Boy, we're talking about a Czar, we're talking about a... Hounds are pretty good too. Sheldon, not so much. But yeah, any of those big AoE units. You could even go for some of the amphibious bombs or something like that if you wanted to. Rufy 10 has decided to evacuate the commander rather than use it to degun all of these medium tanks, and that is going to be a 3rd player going down as more and more units from Nix Rosa stream through, despite their entire base being completely destroyed. As we're going up north, looks like we've got a couple of subs tearing apart some tanks that are forced to roll through the waters here. Always difficult to have to deal with that, but 1 hero medium tank is swept through on the right-hand side. Wow. This is a complete reset for both sides here. Everything is going down at this point. These are more seaplane gunships. Interesting that we see 2 players going for seaplane gunships in this game. Usually on 8 horses, it is going to be 1 at most. I'm not sure what's going wrong here, but the seaplane gunships only seemed interested in flying away for a second there. We need all sea power, or all seaplane power possible dedicated to cleaning up these units. Otherwise, this push is just going to be the end of the game. These hounds were forced to retreat all the way up this mountain in order to survive. They will eventually come back down as they realize they have air support, and those tanks do get cleaned up. This is looking better and better for the red team as the blue team is now slowed down. These medium tanks have done enough damage to justify the amount of damage that was done to the red team, but I'm hesitant to call it even because the position of the red team up north is much, much better than the position down south, which does mean mostly that the red team is going to have a nice little dominating lead here. You can see this entire front line right here is wide open. These are Tiger tanks if they were bulls. I would say this is probably a pretty good chance of holding these medium tanks, but these are just Tigers, and they they're not the best ever. We are going for a tremor here, but I don't think that's what you want. I think you probably want a Tsar in order to deal with these big clumps of units. Don't get me wrong, the Tigers are very powerful. They can dish out a heavy amount of damage, but they are much more susceptible to being shot down. Worth T2. Are they worth T2? They're almost like a T1.5 in my mind. Force Spectate is using the commander here to degun as many of these tanks as possible. That's very nice, but still tons and tons of them leak through right into Petro's base. Petro does have a fusion reactor up and running, but how long will it be before that fusion reactor gets swarmed by tanks? I don't think it'll be long at all as these brutes turn their nozzles towards the fusion reactor and begin to sneeze upon it. Fusion reactor goes up in smoke as Force Spectate is trying to accommodate his teammate here, trying to help his teammate out, but the damage is already done. Petro indeed decides to tap out of the game at this point, thinking all hope is lost, despite having 3 advanced metal extractors, which is a sizable economy, not to be underestimated. Decent navy here too. Actually, a tremendous navy. That's a lot of destroyers. It's 11 destroyers. That's really, really huge. That navy could get a lot of work done compared to a bunch of dolphins. That's actually a nearly game-winning navy. Ooh, Force Spectate's commander just barely caught that in the nick of time. Force Spectate's commander was caught by a bunch of these gunships here who just flew right through to the back line because there was no air player again for the blue team, and that means that all of this facility is going to be bursted down by the blue laser beams coming out of these Saber gunships, as now this aerial facility is blasted apart. The lab goes down, and that really hurts because that means that, at least for the time being, there's no more ships coming out here. We do have an amphibious constructor, the naval construction ship, and it could definitely do some work, but it's going to have to get right on it if it wants to do it in any amount of reasonable time. Any reasonable amount of time. That's the right words. Oh, again, we're not targeting the build power. Yep, get that build power down. If you kill the build power, the thing stops being immortal. At least for right now, that flak turret is indispensable. Flak vehicle, I should say. Build power finally goes down, means that this thing is human again, can be shot down. It will eventually go down, but not before doing a tremendous amount of damage to a lot of these gunships. Force Spectate's team voting on the resign here, as a bunch of these T2 units walk into the base, and this is looking really devastating. Despite having a beautiful trade on the red team on the left-hand side of the map here, the blue team is in a critical situation, as these hounds are going to be very difficult to deal with, especially considering we are still on T1 units. We did just now get the T2 vehicle lab up and running. We don't really have the energy, we don't really have the metal, but it's our last hope is to get something out. Something powerful needs to happen. And certainly Bulls or Mausers could be it, but it looks like the blue team has decided it's not worth the effort. And despite any incredible push here, all the way through the red side, it just wasn't enough to close out this game because the northern half had already won, and so indeed we did not see that sweep through the northern part like I predicted, but instead we saw a push right through the middle of the map that completely destroyed the economies of the blue team, and eventually Ayin was able to secure the cow, the lobster of all time, doing everything. What a phenomenal match. Really, really love that one. I love watching these 8 horses matches. I think they always bring out something really interesting. and I hope you enjoyed as well. Thanks a ton for watching, and I will see you in the next video.